Assalamu alaikum everyone. Hope you all are doing good. Today we are going to develop a basic calculator with graphical user interface in Java. So let's get to Eclipse IDE first. So I have my Eclipse IDE right here. This is the welcome page that you will get when you open your Eclipse IDE when you start the IDE. So I have here an option, create a new Java project. You can do it from here, or you can go to the file menu and go to the new and Java project. Both are same. So whichever you want to choose, go ahead and do it. So create a new Java project. I'm going to name this Java project calculator. And I'm going to okay, here is execution environment of JRE, which is 1.8. I'm creating a separate folder for my sources and class files, etc. We go to the next. It will tell you that it's going to create a source folder with the name of src. There, if you want to add some projects into your current project, then you can also add. If you have some certain jar files or libraries that you want to add into your project, you can add them from here. If not, you can add them on later on as well. So I'm going to just say finish. So upon finishing, you can see the package explorer right here, and if you drop down this, you can see that there are some GRE system library which have been added. For example, the sources and etc. the GREs, jar files, and then there is a source package. So inside this, I'm going to have all of my code files and all of my packages and everything that is going to make up a calculator GUI based. I'm going to have it inside this src package. So the very first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to define a create a package, and I'm going to name this package controller. I'm going to finish. So here I have a controller package right inside the src source package. So okay, there will be two parts of a basic calculator. One will be the logical part, in which I will be writing my functions as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and so on. And then there will be one package where I will be creating the graphical user interface of my calculator with all the text boxes and the buttons and etc. So let's first define the logical part. So I'm going to the controller, and I'm going to add a new class, and I'm going to name this class calculator logic, right? The modifier in this class is public, and the superclass is java.language.object. The reason is everything in Java is an object, and the topmost superclass in Java for every class is actually the object class. So I'm not going to have my main. If you want to have a main in your this particular class, you can select the public static void main function as well. As I do not need a main here, so I will unselect this, and I will say finish. Okay, so here I have a calculator logic.java class. In this class, I'm going to code up my whole logical code of the calculator. So let's see. Uh, it's a basic calculator, so that means I only need two numbers on which I will be doing my different operations like addition, subtraction, division, and etc. So let's just say double num1 and double num2. So I can I'm adding a comment that are the data members of class calculator logic right here. Okay. Okay. So right here, so I have these data members, number 1 and number 2. Now I'm going to define the constructor for my class. So instead of writing the constructor myself, I'm going to use a function facility that IDE provides, that is, go to your source and say generate constructor using fields. So here the superclass it's showing me is object. Where I want to add my constructor, its insertion point is after number 2. The modifier is public. Okay, if I select all these, you can select or deselect different fields depending upon your requirement. And if you deselect all the fields from deselect all and then generate, then it will generate a default constructor, something like this. Of course, in this you have to do, if you have some default values for your variables, then you have to do them on your own. So I would say number one is 0.0 and number this dot num2 is also 0.0. So let's generate a parameterized constructor as well and generate. So you see here it has generated a parameterized constructor, number one, number two, and all the code of the parameterized constructor. Okay, I'm going to have my setters and getters for both of my data members. So instead of writing the code myself, I'm going to the source and I'm saying generate setters and getters. It's asking me which fields. So I select all, or you can select particular fields. The insertion points and sort by, there are different options. Like if you want to sort them in pairs, you can sort them, or if you want to sort them by their type, like setters or getters, right? So I'm going to sort them in pairs, and their access modifiers will be public, and I will generate. And you can see here it has generated the getter, then the setter of number one, and similarly the getter of number two, and then the setter of number two. So till here my class design is complete, but logic still remains. So now I need to add some logical functions to complete my calculator task. So I'm going to add a comment here, logical functions. So we all know that a basic calculator have namely four functions. So I'm going to add them. So public double will be with the return type of addition function. So addition function will simply be returning me the addition number one and number two, the number one and number two addition. Similarly, I'm going to write the second function, which is my subtraction function. So public subtraction, and it's going to return me the number one minus number two. So this is a subtraction. Similarly, the multiplication, number one, number two. So here I have the multiplication. Now the last function, which is division. Division. So in division, we know we have a certain condition or exception in which if number two is zero, then it should give us some math error. So I will say if this dot number two is not equals to my zero, then done this dot number one divided by this dot number two. Else I should be returning something like this, math error maybe, or right. So because the return type of my function is double, I cannot return this math error, so I'm going to change the return type of my function to string, so that I can have actually return this math error. Now of course I'm going to simply add a very simple concatenation like this, or you can convert this double to string as well. There are built-in functions to do that as well, or you can simply concatenate this double with an empty string, and it will convert this double into a string simply. Okay, so till here the logical part of our whole code is done, of our calculator is done. So I have two numbers, number one, number two. I have constructors, I have setters and getters, I have all the logical functions of a basic calculator. You can add other functions as well if you want, but I'm going to, for now, I'm going to do with these four functions only. Okay, now we need to have a view, a GUI of this calculator with which we are going to connect our this logical part of the calculator. So I'm going into my source again, and I'm going to have add a package, and I'm going to name this package view, and I'm going to say finish. So this is my view package. Inside my view package, I will enlist my GUI, my graphical user interface of the calculator. So I'm going to say new. Okay, go to the other. Here, write J frame, and you will see there's a Windows Builder and Swing Designer, and you can see a J frame option. So I'm going to add a J frame next, and I'm going to name it calculator GUI. I'm going to finish it. Its superclass is you can see it's javx.swing.jframe. It's actually coming from the jframe properties, and so it will have all the properties of the jframe. So when I say create, you can see right here it has a main. The main is simply doing declaring an object and initiating it by calling the constructor, and then setting the visible property of the frame to true. That means if now I execute this, if now I say right click and run as Java application, it will give me this empty form right now. This empty form, because right now this GUI, we haven't designed anything on this GUI, and this GUI is not linked to this calculator logic class as well. So right now this is giving me a simple empty form. Okay, so let's close it, and let's see what else it's doing. So right here is the constructor of this class of this frame calculator GUI, and here you have like exit on close, like the cross button on which I clicked, and the frame closed itself, the boundaries of the frame, the panel and etc., the content pane. Let me show you what this is. So here on the drop down, if you have a JFrame here, you can see a source and a design tab. So right now I'm inside the source pane, source tab. I will go to the design tab to actually design my GUI. Okay, it's working. Okay, so right now I'm inside my GUI. So here you can see that I have a frame right here, and I have certain palettes like system, containers, layouts, and then components like JLabel, text fields, combo boxes, check boxes, buttons, some swing actions, menu components, goodies, and etc. etc. We have so many things. So this is basically a J panel. This is a J frame. This whole thing is a J frame, and this particular thing is a J panel. So let's first resize the J frame so that it shows us a window of our. So let's say I want to have my calculator like this. This should be the boundaries of my calculator. So as soon as I did this and I say save, you go back to the source and you can see the boundaries are actually have changed automatically. So you do not need to explicitly change the boundaries here. You can just uh, drag and do change your resolutions and everything. It's showing you actually on the screen that how much the number has changed or what is the current value resolution. So it's 349 and 416, and you can see them right here. So all the changes that I'm going to be doing on the GUI, they will be automatically be updated in the source as well. Make sure to save your changes as soon as you do them. Okay, so I'm on my frame right now. So if I go down, there's a title. I can actually set the title of my frame. So let's say naming the calculator as basic calculator, and you can see the basic calculator comes up right here, the basic calculator. So if I execute it now, calculator GUI, okay, so it says right here basic calculator, and now the resolutions have been changed from before as well. So exit on close. Okay, now to start the designing of our application, of our calculator or whatever the application we are going to have, you need to know about the layout. So there are certain layouts here, and you can actually use these layouts according to your applications. For example, there is grid layout. This layout is going to restrict you in certain, it's going to make a certain grids, and then each grid will be used for a certain purpose. Or you can use flow layout, etc. But there is one layout that I always use. It's absolute layout, because absolute layout actually gives you a free hand to design your GUI any way you like. So I'm going to do absolute layout, and as soon as I did the absolute layout, you can see right here that the layout has been set to the null. Right, null means that the I'm free to however design my GUI as I like. So when I go back to my GUI, now I can actually design the whole GUI or whole panel of my calculator. So because we already know how calculator actually looks like, but if you do not have any idea, you can go to your Windows and check the calculator, etc. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a text field and I'm going to drop it right here. I'm going to resize it so that it's something like that. A text screen on which whatever my user is selecting or pressing the buttons, the output will show in this text field right here. Before going further, I'm going to name this txt.io. I can call it txt.io, which is more. So I have named this text field txt.io. So now whenever I need to access this text field, I will use the name txt.io in my code. Okay, so I have this. Now we all know that there are certain buttons in our calculator. So I'm going to drop a button right here. I'm going to resize that button. So let's say to this, and I'm going to change the text for it to show the 7. Okay, I'm going to into the font because this looks so small. So let's go to the font, and I'm going to select my bold, and let's say it, and okay, and it gets bigger. Let's make it a bit more bigger. Let's run 2, and okay, that's good enough. You can change it as you like. So I'm going to this 7. I'm going to copy this button, then paste it again, so that I have the same consistency of my font styles in all the buttons. And once again, so we know there is going to be 10 buttons in my calculator. So for every digit. So I'm just copy and pasting these buttons right here. Right here. And sorry. Okay, so I'm going to change their text. So 8 and 9, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, and 3. Right? And this will be 0. And this will be the point button for the doubles point, right? So of course, we know that in a calculator we need to have some buttons such as for plus, minus, multiplies, and divisions. Okay, I'm going to make them a little bit small. Okay. So plus, minus, multiply, division, and maybe equal button, right? So the equal, and this will be plus, minus, multiply, and this will be division, right? So okay, this is it. This is my GUI of a basic calculator. We can have other buttons as well. For example, I'm going to have another button right here. I'm going to resize it because it's just small button calculators and it's a bit lengthy. So I'm going to have this button on this side, and I'm going to add a text like AC button, right? Okay, so let's just see how the view actually looks like. So always save resource before launching, and then okay, and it looks something like this, right? So 7, 8, 9, or whatever of the buttons. So we know when I press one, this text box actually shows me one, but right now I can actually write stuff from here, calculator, and this is what we need to restrict our user from doing. So what I'm going to do, first I'm going to resize it like that, and now this, and I'm selecting text field, and I'm going to here. This is editable, and it's set to true. I'm going to set it to false. So I've set this editable to false, and now let's see. Now my user is not able to actually write stuff here, right? Close, and just go to its foreground, select right, right. So it's actually now giving me a white look. Okay, so we need to rename these buttons so that we can actually access them easily in our code. So I'm going to go here. BTN AC is by default its name. You can change it. Uh, Similarly, BTN 7, BTN 8, BTN 9, BTN 4, BTN 5, BTN 6, BTN 1, BTN 2, BTN 3, BTN 0. So BTN equal, BTN point, BTN division or div, BTN multiply, BTN min or minus, and BTN add or addition, right? So I have named all of my buttons and my text field. I'm going to change the font as well because I want my text to show bigger. So right here. So now all is done on the GUI part. I have my GUI right here, right? All the buttons are clickable. The text field is non-editable. There is a C button equal 0 dot, and all of these are ready right here. So in the next lecture, we will be connecting this GUI with our logical part of the calculator that we have coded, and then we will have a whole complete working calculator. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good day, everyone. Allah Hafiz.